Have you ever thought about what really goes on behind the scenes of your favorite old TV shows? The Andy Griffith Show is loved by many for its humor and heart, but things off camera weren't always so perfect. Today we're going to share a surprising secret that Ron Howard has kept to himself for a long time. He really didn't like someone on set. Can you believe it? Under Opie's sweet smile, there was actually some drama. What could have made Ron feel this way? And who did he have a problem with? Stick around as we dive into this story that might change the way you view this classic show forever. Now let's talk about the Andy Griffith Show. It kicked off on CBS in 1960 and quickly became one of the most beloved sitcoms ever. Set in the made-up town of Mayberry, North Carolina, it featured Andy Griffith as Sheriff Andy Taylor, who balanced keeping the peace with raising his son, Opie, played by Ron Howard. The show mixed lighthearted comedy with important life lessons, winning over audiences during its 8 years on air and fitting right in with American culture. There were many memorable characters, but one of the fan favorites was Barney Fife, the comically inept deputy played by Don Knotts. Knotts brought hilarious energy to the show alongside Griffith and ended up winning 5 Emmy Awards for his role. Although he left after the 5th season to chase new film opportunities, his portrayal of Barney remains one of the most iconic in TV history. The Andy Griffith Show didn't just entertain, it was also a ratings powerhouse. From start to finish, it was usually in the top 10 of the Nielsen ratings, even hitting the #1 spot when it wrapped up in 1968. Its strong last season and successful spin-offs like Gomer Pyle, USMC, and Mayberry RFD secured its place in TV history. The show's charming look at small-town life continues to resonate with audiences long after it ended. The Andy Griffith Show has been a beloved show for many years, thanks to its relatable characters and themes that everyone can understand. The cast, which includes Andy Griffith, Ron Howard, Don Knotts, and Frances Bavier as Aunt Bee, created a legacy that people still celebrate today. But did you know that Ron Howard's early days on the show not only shaped his career, but also had a big impact on Hollywood? When Ron Howard joined the Andy Griffith Show as Opie Taylor, he was just 6 years old. Playing the sweet and mischievous son of Sheriff Andy Taylor, he quickly won over the audience with his natural charm. His ability to connect with viewers helped make the show a hit and gave him a solid start on his journey to becoming one of Hollywood's top directors. Working alongside experienced actors like Andy Griffith and Don Knotts was a huge advantage for Howard. They took him under their wings, especially Griffith, who acted like a mentor. Their bond was like a father-son relationship, with Griffith offering advice and showing Howard the ropes. Howard has always appreciated how much Griffith taught him about being a child star and the importance of hard work, humility, and professionalism. But it wasn't all easy for young Ron. While he loved the friendships he made on set, the pressure to study, act, and try to be like other kids was tough. Even with all the fame, he was still a kid wanting to fit in. Some of his friends teased him about being Opie, which made things complicated. Howard admitted that, although he enjoyed acting, he sometimes felt overwhelmed by the attention it brought him. It was a tricky balance between the amazing opportunities from the Andy Griffith Show and the challenges of growing up in front of the camera. And here's a fun tidbit. Think about how they filmed those iconic opening credits. What was that experience like for a young kid on set? Once, when Opie threw a rock into the lake, it didn't make a splash. Even though he was just a kid, Howard couldn't throw it far enough to get that big splash for the scene. So to fix that, a prop guy was ready to toss another rock at the same time to make it all match up. This little trick behind the scenes would stick with Howard as a fond memory, especially considering the pressure of playing such a tough character. Despite the challenges, the time Howard spent on the Andy Griffith Show shaped his amazing career. He picked up on how crucial teamwork, patience, and bouncing back from setbacks are not just in acting, but in everyday life too. Growing up on that set him up to become the talented director and storyteller he would turn into later. He got to see a successful TV show unfold, giving him a deep look into what happens behind the camera. By the time the show wrapped up in 1968, Howard had transformed from a young star into a real actor. But behind the scenes, things weren't always as warm and cozy as they seemed on screen. Though the Andy Griffith Show had that small-town charm, the set sometimes felt pretty tense. Andy Griffith wasn't always the calm, laid-back guy people saw on TV. He loved to play pranks, which didn't always sit well with the rest of the cast. Even Frances Bavier, who played Aunt Bee, had a tricky relationship with him. Having come from Broadway, she thought Griffith's goofing around was a bit unprofessional, leading to some clashes between them, and she wasn't the only one feeling the heat. While Don Knotts and Andy Griffith stayed best friends, they also had their tough moments, especially about where the show was headed. Knotts had signed on for just 5 seasons, but when the show went on longer, it made things tricky for him, as he had other plans. Even though they stayed close, both felt a bit let down. Knotts wished he could have had more say in how the show went. But with all that said, the playful pranks continued to be a part of their daily lives on set. Griffith loved pulling pranks on his fellow cast members, and one of his favorites was Don Knotts. He would often wake Knotts up from his naps by letting metal film cans drop on the floor. Knotts would get startled but never seemed to mind, and soon they became a well-loved duo that fans really enjoyed watching together. George Goober Lindsay also fell victim to some of Griffith's antics, waking up to find duck guts hung up in his dressing room one day. It was all in good fun, but sometimes Griffith's joking didn't sit well with the more serious cast members, like Bavier. Bavier, a talented actress trained in New York, didn't quite appreciate Griffith's laid-back, small-town comedy style. Off-camera, their relationship was pretty complicated, much more than what viewers saw on screen. Still, they always managed to keep things professional while filming, never letting their differences get in the way of their work. Later in life, Bavier even reached out to Griffith to apologize for how things went between them, hoping to mend the rift that lasted for so many years. In the end, it was the professionalism of the cast that shone through, despite their occasional clashes. They came together to create one of the most beloved shows in television history, which still resonates with people today. The mix of lighthearted pranks, serious disagreements, and moments of tension only adds to the story of The Andy Griffith Show. These behind-the-scenes dynamics highlight the pressures of working together while also showing the strong commitment the cast had to their craft, achieving a lot in a short time. No matter the ups and downs in their personal lives, the show stands as a testament to the strong bonds they formed together. One of the secrets to the success of The Andy Griffith Show was the special relationship between Andy Griffith and his co-stars, especially Ron Howard. Playing the fatherly sheriff Andy Taylor, Griffith took on a similar role in real life for his on-screen son, Opie, played by Howard. Griffith would often offer him advice and support as he navigated the challenges of being a child star. Howard often talks about how much he respects Griffith and credits him for shaping his Hollywood career. On screen, the father-son relationship was strong, but behind the scenes, things weren't always smooth. Griffith had some disagreements with Frances Bavier, who played Aunt Bee. Bavier, a trained actress, sometimes didn't appreciate Griffith's playful approach while filming. Their different styles led to some tension, but they managed to keep it professional throughout the show's run. Years later, Bavier reached out to Griffith to apologize for the friction they had on set. One of the biggest highlights for Griffith was working with Don Knotts. The two had amazing chemistry, and their comedic timing really made the show special. Even after Knotts left in 1965, they remained close friends, and Griffith realized the show just wasn't the same without him. Their friendship lasted until Knotts passed away in 2006, showing how deep their bond was. So even though Griffith had his disputes with some cast members, he was the key person who helped make the show a hit. His relationships, especially with Ron Howard and Don Knotts, shaped both the on-screen moments and the behind-the-scenes dynamics. These connections, while occasionally rocky, played a big part in what made The Andy Griffith Show so memorable and significant in TV history. While Griffith acted as a father figure to Ron Howard, it was his special friendship with Don Knotts that really captured the heart of the show, both in front of the camera and off-screen. Speaking of friendships, Griffith and Knotts had a strong bond. Don Knotts originally came on board for just one episode, but his portrayal of the goofy yet charming Deputy Barney Fife won over everyone's hearts, including Griffith's. Griffith fought for his buddy, and together they became the show's main duo. Griffith and Knotts had a strong friendship that went way beyond their work on TV. On the show, Griffith played the serious guy while Knotts brought the laughs as Barney, but in real life, they really respected and admired each other. Griffith often praised Knotts for his great timing and talent, and Knotts would credit Griffith for giving him a chance to shine. After Knotts left the show in 1965 to focus on movies, it was tough for both of them. Griffith felt a real emptiness without Knotts, missing not only his energy and humor, but also the friendship they shared on set. Even though they weren't working together anymore, they stayed close friends for life and spent a lot of time together. In fact, during Knotts' final days, Griffith was right there by his side, showing just how strong their bond was. Their chemistry on screen made them a classic duo in TV history, and their real-life friendship proves that true connections can last through anything. Now let's talk about Ron Howard. You might think he had issues with his co-stars on The Andy Griffith Show, but that's not it. He respected everyone he worked with. What really got to him were the challenges of being a kid in the spotlight. Growing up as Opie meant he had to juggle school and being on the show, which didn't leave much time for a typical childhood. In interviews, he shared that while he loved acting, the constant attention from fans and the pressure that came with fame were tough. It was hard for him to fit in with other kids, who often teased him for being the famous Opie. So even with a hit show, Ron faced challenges that made his childhood anything but normal. What do you think it was like for him to handle all that pressure? Howard often felt really alone, even though he was part of a famous show like The Andy Griffith Show. Fame came with its ups and downs, and for him, it sometimes felt like a burden. He worked with a talented cast every day. Andy Griffith was on one side of him, Don Knotts was on the other, and Frances Bavier sat in front. But being a child star took a toll on him. It wasn't just long hours of filming or repeating lines. He faced challenges typical for kids, but with the added pressure of needing to act like a professional. He kept these feelings to himself for years, but looking back, he realized it was tough to juggle two lives. One in front of the camera and one behind it. You might find it surprising that Ron Howard has never spoken badly about his co-stars. He felt a strong bond with Andy Griffith, sort of like a father to him, and Don Knotts always had a way of making him laugh. Even though there were some tensions behind the scenes, the cast was very supportive of him. They treated him with respect and made sure he felt at ease on set. So his frustrations didn't really come from the people around him, but more from the pressure he felt growing up too fast. The real challenge for Ron wasn't directed at anyone in particular. It was more about the struggles that came with fame itself. As an adult, he's been open about the tough side of being a child star and the emotional battles tied to that role. Yet he's also quick to point out the positives that came from his time on The Andy Griffith Show. Those early years laid the groundwork for his impressive career as a director and producer, but it definitely came with some challenges that shaped how he views fame and childhood. While the show seemed wholesome and fun, things were often quite different behind the scenes. The off-screen action was full of laughter, pranks, and playful moments. A lot of that mischief revolved around Andy Griffith himself, who loved to pull practical jokes and kept the atmosphere lighthearted. The fun vibe on set really came from Andy Griffith, who loved to pull harmless pranks on his fellow actors. One of his go-to tricks was waking Don Knotts from his naps by loudly dropping metal film canisters on the floor. Knotts would jump in shock, but he always laughed it off because he was such a good sport. Andy didn't stop there. He played tricks on others too. George "Goober" Lindsay, who played the laid-back mechanic, also found himself on the receiving end. One time, Griffith filled Goober's dressing room with duck guts while he was snoozing. These pranks weren't mean-spirited. They were just a way to unwind after long days of shooting. They helped everyone bond and kept the spirits high, even after filming wrapped up. But not everyone enjoyed the playful atmosphere. Frances Bavier, who played the more serious Aunt Bee, often found Griffith's antics frustrating. She was a trained actress and preferred a more serious setting, which sometimes made her seem a bit distant from the lighter side of the show. Although there was noticeable tension between her and Griffith, they always kept it professional in front of the cameras. One of the neat things is that the humor they shared backstage made its way into the show. For instance, in the Runaway Kid episode, Opie and his buddies pranked Sheriff Taylor by moving his car in front of a fire hydrant, leading to a ticket. Classic. This playful interaction off-screen really boosted their chemistry on screen, adding to the show's charm. The backstage fun on The Andy Griffith Show wasn't just for laughs. It kept everyone upbeat during those long shooting days and helped build lasting friendships. The heartwarming moments in the show are great, but it's the behind-the-scenes laughter that really brought the cast together and kept the fun alive. If that's true, it makes you think about how the warmth and fun they shared off camera were just as real as what we saw on screen. It really adds to the love fans have for the show and shows that the magic of Mayberry wasn't just for show. Now here's a surprising twist. Frances Bavier, who played Aunt Bee, actually reached out to apologize to Andy Griffith, her TV son. On screen, Bavier was the caring and warm Aunt Bee, but off-screen, things were pretty tense. She was serious and focused, while Griffith was more of a laid-back jokester, which really rubbed her the wrong way. Everyone on set noticed the distance between them. Bavier, a classy actress from New York, didn't appreciate Griffith's silly antics, which took away from the professionalism she valued. As they worked together across the years, that friction just kept building, because Bavier felt his playful attitude made things a bit unprofessional. Despite all that, they both gave incredible performances that made the Andy Griffith Show a classic. But once the show wrapped up, Bavier started to think back on their time together. Then one day, long after everything ended, she decided to call Griffith out of the blue to apologize for being tough to work with while filming. She realized that her frustrations had affected their working relationship and genuinely felt bad about it. It was a heartfelt apology that caught everyone off guard, especially after all the time that had passed. The reconciliation must have been meaningful because, despite their differences, it showed a deeper bond behind the scenes. Frances Bavier accepted an apology from Andy Griffith, and they managed to resolve their differences before she passed away in 1989. This moment brought peace to both of them, healing old wounds and reminding everyone that even the best friendships can hit rough patches. But with a little forgiveness and reflection, things can shine again. Bavier's heartfelt apology showed a softer side of her, revealing that even after 30 years of tension, it's important to make things right. Their reconciliation showed how tough relationships can be, especially in the high-pressure world of TV production. It was a moment for them to look back at their time on the Andy Griffith Show together and reflect on what they had built. This serves as a reminder that even when things get tough, there's always a chance to find forgiveness and reconnect. As Frances and Andy finally resolved their issues, Ron Howard was quietly setting himself up for a remarkable career, far beyond playing Opie Taylor. While many child actors struggle to find success later on, Ron didn't slow down after the Andy Griffith Show wrapped up in 1968. Instead, he landed a starring role as Richie Cunningham in the hit sitcom Happy Days, which helped him become one of TV's most loved stars. This role allowed him to transition smoothly from a kid actor to a leading man in primetime television. While Ron loved acting, he also had a passion for directing, a move that would turn into one of the biggest success stories in Hollywood. While still on Happy Days, he began looking for directing opportunities. Just 2 years after he left the show, he directed his first big movie, Grand Theft Auto, which came out in 1977. What will Ron Howard do next? After that, this director really took off with films like Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, and The Da Vinci Code. He snagged a bunch of awards along the way, including 2 Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture for A Beautiful Mind. So, how did Ron Howard become such a big name? Part of it is his deep understanding of films and his knack for storytelling, which has earned him a lot of respect in Hollywood. From moving historical dramas to exciting thrillers, Howard has shown his skills time and again, always impressing with his teamwork and solid storytelling. This talent not only got him many hits, but also led to some serious cinematic achievements. And it doesn't stop there. His production company, Imagine Entertainment, that he started with Brian Grazer, has put out successful movies and shows like Arrested Development and 24. From his start as young Opie to building a powerful entertainment brand, Ron Howard has definitely changed the game in both film and television. Now let's talk about some lessons from behind the scenes of the Andy Griffith Show. While the show seemed all warm and friendly, the truth was a bit different, especially with the ongoing tensions between Andy Griffith and Frances Bavier. It's a great reminder of how important professionalism is. They managed to put personal issues aside to keep the show running, which shows how staying professional can hold a project together even when things get tough. Another key lesson here is about reconciliation. Frances Bavier's apology to Andy Griffith just before she passed away teaches us that it's never too late to make things right. no matter how much time has passed. Simple acts like letting go of past grudges and saying "I'm sorry" can really mend relationships, whether at work or home. Bavier's humility reminds us that we can always take that step to heal old wounds. So what do you think? How can we all apply these lessons in our lives? You know, sometimes all it takes to smooth out old tensions is just talking it out and forgiving each other. And that's a big part of what this show's about. It really shows how important it is to keep a sense of humor, even when things get tough. Andy Griffith loved playing practical jokes, and that helped everyone on set get along better. It lightened the mood and built friendships that lasted for years. A good laugh here and there can really ease the tension and create a friendly vibe, making it easier to tackle challenges together. The legacy of this show highlights how meaningful relationships can be, showing us the importance of building supportive connections. Sure, there were some bumps between the cast sometimes, but over time, Andy Griffith and Don Knotts became really close friends. Their bond lasted long after the show ended, reminding us that the relationships we form at work can have lasting, positive impacts on our lives and careers. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this look into the Andy Griffith Show and its behind-the-scenes stories, give us a thumbs up and share your favorite moment from the show in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you stay updated on our latest videos. We've got so many awesome stories coming your way. And if you're eager for more, just click on the next video on the screen. You won't want to miss it. Catch you in the next one.